Welcome viewers, this is Winch here. Finally decided to do a weapon review of one of my top weapons, and I was looking through my stats. I'm like, I have over 1,500 kills with the SCARH-SV DMR weapon. And I have yet to do a review of it, so let's get into some of the stats of this weapon. Look at the recoil pattern of this. Not that good. Compare that to like the RPK-12 in support class, a fully automatic machine gun. Technically has less recoil than this weapon does, horizontally and vertically. But of course it all comes down to aiming down sight spread, which obviously the DMR is going to be superior in that regard. But it struck me as odd that the SCARH-SV has this much horizontal recoil, 0.3 right pull, and that's not even that high compared to some of the other DMRs in Battlefield 4. Look at this, the SKS or any of the other DMRs, which I find them difficult to use in Battlefield 4 because I can just see my reticle moves so much in the gameplay. It throws me off so much compared to like Battlefield 3. Maybe that's the visual recoil that I see. Maybe that'll get patched, or with the big patch that's coming in September. We'll have to see on that. But I'm looking forward to that patch. I'm sure many of you guys are as well, because my personal opinion, since the Dragon's Teeth DLC has released, that the game has regressed considerably in frame rate, netcode issues, and it's just typical with Battlefield. Anytime a DLC releases, you need a patch after that patch. So but that's not what I'm here to talk about. Still enjoying the game, having fun, although days it's frustrating. But want to compile some footage here, some various loadouts and gameplay with this weapon. Now, I run the SCAR-H on any class, recon, support, engineer. I just like this weapon, and to me, after having played all the DMRs, or with most of the DMRs in Battlefield 4, it just settled in right for me. It felt the most comfortable to me. And I don't really dive too much into stats. It's just what works for you. Now, we all know DMRs, for the most part, are a undervalued, underappreciated loadout, and for some reason, a big despised weapon on the battlefield. And I know that's because of the spammability of them, and in particular that the sound that they create, that we all know is it just drives you mad. Which is kind of, I guess, a fun aspect of doing it, because you know anybody on the receiving end of this weapon is just hating life, because it's just the constant psychological factor, which I think kind of plays into the role of the weapon. When you're getting spammed by one of these cannons, it has a demoralizing effect on your opponent, and a lot of times it gets in their mind and they start making mistakes. That's something I've observed, just kind of like the X factor of this game. So, pardon the pun factor, that's not a pun on you. But it's kind of the unknown variable, this weapon, and the class in general, that people just behave strangely when they are getting you know, that constant needle in their ears, so to say. So you know, whether or not that's going to change, I doubt it at this point, so it's just something we have to live with. But we can't deny the fact that this weapon is, in the class in general, but the SCAR-H is no different. There's no exceptions here with this weapon. It's no magic gun. It's not the best DMR. It's just what works for me. But I think it's some par on being one of the best DMRs out there. But there's no denying the weakness of these weapons, even after they're buffed. Look at this moment. This guy just RPG'd that building. I was on the roof. I fell right down through it and then got shot in the back. Only in Battlefield. I mean, you just gotta love this game some days. I mean, you just don't see that in other games. But even post-patch, with this being a two-shot kill, I wish. A 3-shot kill of pretty much all ranges. It's still too weak. I think it needs to be a blend of 2-shot to 3-shot kill to the chest, depending on your range. Oh, wow. I'd probably estimate, kind of like the SR338 is, a 2-shot kill. And that's another can of worms right there. Look at all this respawn in right there. That was the right place, the right time there. But you know, I do think DMRs need to be a 2-shot kill at a certain range. I mean, they had it just spot on in Battlefield 3. I mean, the M417, I remember the days running with that. I think this weapon reminds me the most of the M417 in Battlefield 3. You know, the SKS, but again, those were only recon exclusive weapons, so I don't know if having a damage model similar to Battlefield 3 and the DMRs and then available to all classes is the right fit. Although I think you can make the argument that it is, because, I mean, heck, we have carbines, and those are incredibly powerful as well, and they're available to all classes, so what's the difference? But DMRs take skill. you have to know where to use them, and it's all about positioning. And I said this before, you got to position yourself to know the strengths of your weapon. Here I'm running with a heavy barrel on this weapon, which ran really good. And just look at this, I mean, don't you just love this moment in Daybreaker, where, or Dawnbreaker, where the sun's coming up here at dawn, you just got the right lighting right here. I think it's actually working to my advantage here, because it's a little difficult for these guys to pick me up visually. You know, I just like this. Look at that sun shining through the scope, and this game looks good. It looks good, and this is fun. I mean, those explosions going off in the distance. But so you can see, I position myself here to get range to my advantage. Now, medium range is where these weapons shine the most. They're capable of shooting guys down at long range, and I snipe people all day long with this weapon. Don't get me wrong, and I like putting medium range scopes on this weapon, but medium range, I love this weapon. I would rather have this weapon over any other weapon in the game at medium range. It just feels right. The gun, you don't have to spam it. It just kind of has a rhythm to it. And taking fire, pulling back, suppression. I don't know what is about this gun, but I swear that suppression, it does not have as big of an effect on my aim with this weapon for some reason. I land shots more accurately when I'm receiving suppression than I do with any other gun. It's probably gonna, maybe it's just a psychological thing, but I just like the way this weapon settles in when I get into that not necessarily this spam situation, but just when I'm comfortable that I have a target dead to rights, I have faith that this weapon won't let me down. And that says a lot in Battlefield 4, because there are weapons that you really just, they have quirks to them. The random recoil or whatever it is, factors outside your control, and they let you down. Particularly LMGs are notorious for being finicky, I think, in some days, when they're just like not hitting their targets, and then you're frustrated, you change your loadout, you put a different grip on, thinking that's going to do something, but most of the time it's just you or the game that day, or the connection. So yeah, that's kind of a gripe we've all had about Battlefield, is some days it's great, some days it's bad. Oddly enough, I really don't want to mention this, but I jumped into Battlefield 3 the other day, and man, I was really surprised how newbie, frankly, the guns are in Battlefield 4 now. I mean, the recoil is just not even half what it is on most of the weapons in Battlefield 3, I noticed. It was quite eye-opening, jaw-dropping. I was like, wow, we regressed this much as a game this newbie now, to where like guns have no recoil at all. I mean, just everything was kicking like a mule in Battlefield 3. Now you can see the Deagle here. You got to have a good sidearm with DMR class loadout. You cannot, you cannot run with this weapon unless you've got a sidearm you can count on. And now that I've mastered the Deagle, there's no question, even with its nerf coming in the next patch as well, I will still run with it. Depending if there's a big trigger drill, we'll have to see how that goes. But you got to count on this weapon, because you just can't run in situations like this. Even if a guy's got a sniper, it don't matter. The DMR 3-shot kill at that range, you're pressing your luck too much. So you got to keep yourself disciplined when running with the DMR. The SCARH is no exception. It just cannot drop guys at close range. And I mean, certainly you'd be better circumstances with the SKS or other DMRs that fire quicker, but to me, the SCARH, again, I've used this term before in Battlefield 3, it's just a Goldilocks of DMRs for me. It's got the good fire rate, the recoil to me is spot on where it should be, and what works for me is dependable. It just drops gobs and gobs of guys, and like I say, 1,500 kills now plus with it, and I run with it all the time. I would encourage you guys to kind of maybe give DMRs a second thought. I just don't see them too much anymore in the Battlefield. I mean, you do see them, but compared to other weapons, people just don't like them. They don't use them. I think it's just because, I mean, there's a reason why people don't use them. Is they're weak. They're terribly weak at close range, and people don't like, you know, having to restrict their gameplay to certain scenarios. It's just scenarios and situations. If I can get my my speech right here. But if you can understand where to use these weapons, where to position yourself, understand the flow of the gameplay, the battlefield, you will be an incredibly deadly force not to be reckoned with. And I, put you up against any other weapon out there, bolt actions, what have you. The suppressive fire of this weapon is incredible. So, hope you guys like this video. The SCARH-SV, one of my favorite DMRs, my top 5 weapon right now in Battlefield 4. Thanks for watching, guys. Glad you could join me. Please like and subscribe. I'll have more Battlefield 4 content to come.